Good morning, and thank you all for coming and joining us today. It's maybe a little bit different of a session than you've had in the past. So we, three of us have been working over the last year plus on a journey to investigate how we deploy some of the newer technology against our business and the business problems we're seeing in the market. And so we want to share with you guys kind of what we've seen on that journey. We've actually deployed real tech, which you will see while we flip these slides. A demo will run in the back. It is our own tech used internally to deliver better services for what we do, specifically in denials, which we focus a lot on high-dollar, complex clinical denials. And then other denial types such as DRG downgrades and patient type downgrades and things like that, which we'll get into. But we've developed this tech internally for us, so we're not licensing it externally. And we've been on this journey to say, what can this stuff really do? We have a lot of hope in the market, I would say, that it will take out, waste within the revenue cycle and the more administrative functions of healthcare, but I have more TBD, as I've heard. So we want to share with you guys kind of what we've seen, what we've encountered, some of the missteps along the way and that kind of stuff, and hope to help shine a light on, as providers are taking this journey or thinking about whether they build, buy, or partner, just give you guys the good, the bad, and the ugly as we go through this. Aspirion, if you guys aren't aware, we focus, like I said, heavily on clinical denials, getting paid for the most complex claims out there. So everything from motor vehicle and workers' comp, out-of-state Medicaid, VA TRICARE, we do all that complex bucket, but the majority of what we do are, like I said, denials and high-dollar, complex clinical denials that require clinical validation. So those that would, require us pulling a medical record, reviewing it for its compliance with care guidelines, and then crafting an appeal back to the payer to say we should have been paid at this rate or we should have been paid in total, all of those things. So that's the lens through which we're coming at this. We're 1,450 teammates roughly today, all onshore. So, and we get paid only when our provider partners get paid. So again, this is our technology we've been developing to help speed up the quality, the accuracy of the payments we're pursuing on behalf of our provider clients. So with that, I'm gonna flip and introduce you guys to my colleagues here. I'll start. I'm Jim Bonesuck. I'm the Chief Strategy Officer at Aspirion. I've been in the healthcare revenue cycle and tech space for 26 years now. And I lead our M&A function, broader product and strategy functions for the organization. And then you want to introduce yourself?
Okay. Good morning, everyone. My name is Xue. I'm the VP of Data Science of Infinia ML. So my background is in AI and machine learning. I got my PhD from Duke University. After that, I've been working on AI applications for the past 15 years. Back in 2017, I co-founded Infinia ML, an AI startup. And 6 years later, it was acquired by Aspirion, and now we are Aspirion's AI division.
Hey everyone, Spencer Ali. I'm the Chief AI Officer at Aspirion. My background is in applied AI and machine learning, and really the intersection of machine learning and innovation and real business problems, particularly in B2B kind of knowledge process spaces. I started with Aspirion about 1.5 years ago when we started our AI journey, and we'll talk more about that in a bit here. But prior to that, led technology, product, and AI at a regulatory technology company, analyzing compliance rulebooks and manuals from the government. And then a few different roles prior to that, but I led PwC's AI lab for about 4 years when big data and AI were first kind of entering the business world in jargon. So that's a bit about me.
Right on. All right. A little context also setting for you guys. I mean, I think, how many in the room are providers or provider-centric organizations? How about payers? All right, friendly audience. Good. Kind of the world as we see it today, and like I said, a lot of the work we do is in these complex clinical denials. And we are seeing whereby the payers under payment integrity, as the label, are deploying a lot of technology to speed up their ability to process claims with rules that are changing pretty constantly. And so the result of that, and as we're seeing it, are the increase in denials, and that's been widely published, I think, across the market, that we're seeing a massive increase in denials. As we look at it, it's not just the denials in volume that we're used to, that, man, we messed up the registration process, sent it to the wrong payer, didn't verify the insurance, all of those things. Those are still there for sure. It's again, the complex clinical denials or even the downgrades that are wreaking havoc as we're watching the volumes increase materially in terms of, nope, not going to pay this as an inpatient, we're going to pay it as an outpatient. Okay, not going to pay this with this severity, we're going to downgrade it further and pay a lesser rate. And so it's one thing as we think about, all right, I billed them $10,000 for this stay and we got paid zero. I'm absolutely going after that. I billed them $10,000. They said, we disagree. It didn't have sepsis as a complication, so therefore we're going to pay you at $8,000. Now I've got a $2,000 delta, and I've got a unit economics problem around applying a resource to go do the same work as overturning the $10,000 one. So I've got a prioritization problem where, without the help of technology on the other side, we're looking at it as saying that's unaddressable, some of that delta there. Like, it just doesn't make sense to chase the $2,000 downgrade, right? So we see that there's a lot of opportunity and a lot of what I'd call death by 1,000 cuts as we're getting these. It's not that I'm not paying you, I'm just paying you lesser than what you asked for. But you can argue with me, as a payer and say, nope, but I got to go pull clinical documentation. I've got to read through, in our cases, we've got medical records that's going north of 2,000 pages, right? So I've got to read through that, create an argument, compare it to care guidelines, compare it to your payer policies, and then craft a letter to send back to you with evidence to say, nope, you owed me an additional $2,000. Well, it's just not going to happen without us doing it in more of an automated way. So that's the kind of context through which we're viewing this and our investment in automation. How do we begin to use technology to assist both the humans in doing the work, and then can the machine ultimately do the work of crafting this appeal letter and argument back without a human touching it, is the journey we've been on. And it is real and it is deployed, and you will see it as we go through this. But our journey really started when our capital partner, Linden, here in Chicago, hired my colleague, Spencer Alley, as our chief AI officer. So kind of give us the perspective as we started that journey, and as Linden asked you to join, where you were coming from, what you thought about the business, and then how you kind of came about.
So when I first got the call from Linden, I was a little confused because I had never worked in healthcare, and I was a venture-backed tech startup product guy, not a PE-backed services healthcare guy. But the vision that they outlined was extremely compelling. And basically, the way that I first kind of learned about the problem space was, hey, you walk into a grocery store, you buy a bag of chips, you know how much it's going to cost, who's going to pay, when you're going to get paid. Maybe there's a little bit happening with credit cards, but that's all pretty predictable. You walk into your doctor's office, you get treatment, nobody knows who's going to pay, how much it's going to pay, or when that payment is going to happen. And that all gets figured out on the back end by this industry that we're in. So how do we use technology to approach closer and closer to actual real-time payment settlement? And the reason for that gap is because the information that you need to actually make those decisions accurately and in a trusted way is locked up in unstructured data, right? It's in your managed care contracts, in your payer policies, and managed clinical care guidelines, all the things that Jim referenced. And only very recently has the progression of technology and machine learning in particular gotten us to a point where you can actually programmatically start to access that information in those unstructured documents in an accurate and consistent way. And that's really been the progression. AI first came into the kind of business world not very long ago, and at this point it's almost overloaded to the point of, all the exhibitors downstairs are talking about AI, and you don't know if that means they're using a bot to scrape a website or they're actually deploying large language models. But the reality is that AI has progressed since the 1950s. Was the first time that academics started thinking about artificial intelligence and got together at a conference in upstate New York to think about it. That has progressed, and Ya will know this way in more depth than me based on her education, but through more specific machine learning, and then deep learning was what really kind of kicked this off in the late kind of 2000s, early 2010s, when we started getting these kind of massive gains in the way we can apply machine learning. And then it's really only in the past 18 months or so that large language models, ChatGPT, all those types of things have become accessible and available at a cost that allows us to use this and apply it for real business problems at scale. So that's what we're doing, and why I'm excited about it. When I started, we didn't have an AI team. Aspirion was not a tech company really, but the board had a vision and made this investment. We started with a very small group of machine learning engineers and data scientists. And the first thing we did was actually start working with other small startups to do pilots. And we were working on things that were relatively straightforward, like predicting expected value of a case, and then also some of these more complex cases or use cases using large language models. And one of the startups we were working with was Infinia ML, and that partnership went so well, that initial pilot, that we then approached them about having a more durable relationship and actually having Infinia join the family. So why don't I hand it over to you, Ya, and you can talk about that journey.
Yeah. So at Infinia, we developed an AI-powered platform for intelligent document processing using classical machine learning technologies and deep learning technology, and the last 2 years, large language models. Built upon our platform, we develop a customized AI solution for our clients. Since our platform can handle a wide range of documents, legal contracts, financial reports, and invoices, and also medical records, so we collaborated with clients from diverse domains, including healthcare. For example, we work with Duke Health and also a company called Signal Pass, now part of Verily. While we were operating under this platform plus service business model, we were also looking for opportunities to actually build an end-to-end solution for specific vertical. Just at that time, we met Aspirion. And you think about situation, Aspirion, they want to transform RCM with AI technology. We were looking for the right application. So that was a perfect match. And now, 1 year later, we are here to show you the results of this synergy.
No, it was good. As Spencer said, there was initial investment in some machine learning efforts and scoring in particular, and scoring models around our account prioritization and those kind of things that weren't as novel, but it was a starting point. And then these pilots were ongoing when I joined, and the one with Infinia was extremely interesting, and an interesting case for me as a guy who does M&A also with product to look at and say, really interesting. Over 5 years, Infinia had been developing a very impressive kind of platformed approach to taking in. I mean, it was the classic: give me unstructured data, I will structure it, and I will produce some kind of generative output. And so, but across many industries, as she said, I mean, they did legal services, you did property and casualty insurance, you did some healthcare, you did some life sciences with SignalPath. So it's kind of all over. And me looking at it, I said, okay, they've done bespoke consulting projects for different opportunities to optimize a process while building a platform at the same time. And so, one of the classic challenges of building tech for tech is that, do you ever get product market fit, right? Do you ever get clients saying, I got to have that thing and demanding to buy it? Or are you constantly pushing it into different markets, which is what they were doing? And so it was interesting for us because we Aspirion are sitting there saying, all right, what they have is a technology platform and some really smart people in Durham with PhDs in data science and machine learning, master's degrees and all these things, and they've built a platform. But what they haven't been able to do is get consistent feeds of data to fuel that engine to have it learn more. And then furthermore, they can't get these external clients of theirs to spend the time to say, well, here's how the manual process works. How can you use that platform to help us automate it? So they were missing a couple of the ingredients. And then we had 1,450 people, which is a lot of subject matter experts, and we got access to all the data by the virtue of the work we do on behalf of our provider clients. But what we didn't have was the platform and the super smart tech people out in Durham to continue to evolve that. And so when you brought those together, that was the combination that we were most interested in. We had what they didn't have. They had something we really needed, and we believe that to keep up with the evolution of this technology and the speed at which the payers are beating us at the game of changing and deploying this technology, we had to up our game. And that was the whole rationale for acquiring Infinia and bringing it into the Aspirion family. So as we looked at it, though, Spencer, you kind of highlighted these things for me. You need these constructs to be successful in deploying kind of AI and automation. So give them your perspective on that, will you?
Yeah, so Jim kind of just touched on these, but we really view these 4 pillars as being necessary to actually achieve value with AI investments. So as Jim mentioned, Aspirion had clear use cases. We had a big problem space, lots of different problems to solve, and access to lots of data on behalf of our clients. And Infinia had the platform that they had built and both the engineering and as well as the machine learning talent to actually build solutions on top of that platform. Without these, you really can't make a lot of progress. And to me, it actually just all starts with the use case. I think a lot of people, in my experience in both the advisory space at PwC and building technology startups and then here, a lot of times you start with the technology thinking, oh, this is a cool new capability, and then go look around, how can we actually apply it and get some value out of it? That's the wrong way to approach it. You actually want to start by, first, what's your vision, right? And we talked about the vision. And then, given your current state, what are the specific use cases? Set aside whether machine learning can help or not. What are the biggest pain points in your process and your operations to actually move the needle on outcomes for your business, and in our case, for our clients? And for us, that meant how do we impact success rate, yield, throughput, time to cash, all the things that in the monthly and quarterly business reviews with our clients that they talk about. They don't care what we're doing behind the scenes to do it, right? Our clients just want outcomes. And so you really have to center on use cases and outcomes and think about how you're going to measure that from the very beginning so that you can benchmark and baseline before you do anything, whether it's with AI or not. Once you have those use cases identified, and for us, it was really, like we said, starting with these scoring models. So how do we prioritize the right case at the right time for the right desk to maximize yield and throughput? And then moving into, okay, how do we identify bottlenecks in our process, whether it's reading a 2,000-page medical record with a very expensive resource, whether it's then writing the appeal letter, pulling the right information from these different data sources into that drafting process, or whether it's how do you print, fax, get those out the door, follow up efficiently. All of those are big bottlenecks in our process. And then you can look at, okay, do we have the right data and the right capability to start addressing those bottlenecks? And that's where then you start to bring AI technology data. And it's not just machine learning, right? It's, do you have the right data in place from, in our case, the right information in the placement files, the 835 and 837 data, claim level data, the payer provider contracts themselves from the clients, the medical records, right? All of those are important to have to actually work on any of these. Then we move into platform. To me, there's kind of 2 parts of the platform. There's the workflow component. So what is actually orchestrating the steps that you do in your knowledge process? And then there's the machine learning platform itself. So what are the services that you build to make the predictions? And yeah, I'll talk about this more in a minute, but make the predictions, generate the draft appeal letter, pull the right information out of the medical record so that you don't have to read through all of it in great detail, right? So there are kind of two halves of that platform. And then it's about investing in talent. And to me, talent is not just the technical talent, right? The technical talent, important, but if you just have smart engineers and data scientists, you're not going to actually get value. It's about the flow of that value into operations and having change management folks, L&D, reporting, having as we said, the subject matter expertise that can actually help guide the capabilities that you're building into the actual operational flow and make sure that it is creating real results. So we'll talk about that a little bit more in a second, but that's really how I think about these four pillars.
And as we went on, we kind of knew the use case coming in. Like I felt we were pretty confident.
Yep.
Like, how do we write an appeal letter with using the machine, right,
Yep.
to respond effectively? But then as we started pulling back the data, it was, oh my gosh, we are missing so many pieces of data that we need. So we had to go back to our clients and say, hey, all right, sorry, we've been, making do, because what we started to find out was we were getting placement files, but they had gaps in them around the type of account that it was. And so we had humans swivel chairing back into Epic to pull that information and fill that in our Compass platform, which is our core workflow platform that distributes stuff. We thought, we got all the stuff we need to work these accounts. And then we realized, no, humans were taking steps to fill in this data. And so as you start to go on that journey and you go, no, I got all this data, it's all there. No, and then you realize it's not clean at all. And you got to go backwards and go, all right, I got to go back to the source and I got to get the right things I need to feed the machine such that it can start to do the automation steps. Was interesting. And then I think the other thing is we saw, to your point, Spencer, it's not just like where Infinia historically had not gotten subject matter experts to spend the time with them to educate them on the real workflow. That was a big difference because we got the full attention of our colleagues that were doing this work, and they were like, yes, help me do this better, faster, all those things. Some of them rightfully too said, dude, this is going to take my job. And we have to constantly work with them to say, no, here's how the job is going to change. And we want you to work at the top of your license. We don't want you doing these tasks that the machine can do to speed up your job. And so, as you guys came, into the mix, you had done some healthcare, like you said, in different areas, but not specifically what Aspirion was tackling. So kind of give them a sense of what you guys learned as you started to look at the problem space and figure out.
Yeah, give us the focus, basically. All right. So when people think of AI applications, so quite often they focus on, wow, the cool technology. But it actually takes much more to develop a reliable and scalable AI solution. So I want to walk you through our AI development process. Oh, sorry. So at Aspirion, we try to apply AI to every aspect of ACM. So there are always multiple projects running at the same time. A project usually begins with just an open-ended question. For example, can we automate appeal generation? It's an open-ended question. So during the initial discovery phase, we look into several factors. Business impact, for sure, data availability, technical feasibility, and also impact on workflow. The last one is very important, but quite often ignored by people. And as Spencer said, this is a close collaboration among several functions, engineering, product, and also operation, business function, finance, all this together. We look into the problem space to figure out where to start. Usually that's what we say, find the low-hanging fruit. Then we move into the development phase. So AI, let's put it this way. AI is not magical. It's not one size fits all. So we have to tailor our approach to each unique problem. So that's why you see we use not only cloud-hosted models like the well-known GPT models you have tried already, and also self-hosted models. So the design choice it's always a trade-off of accuracy, speed, and cost. And also, to eliminate, elevate the hallucination, LM quite often have. So we apply technologies like RAG and prompt engineering and also agent design, all these different technologies try to improve our solution. Once the solution is built, tested, then you'll be deployed on our Docker IQ platform. Docker IQ platform is also integrated with Campus. That's Aspirion's core workflow tool. So this allows our users to seamlessly incorporate the AI tools we developed into their daily tasks. And then we're going to see next how it works.
Yeah, but what was interesting for me as we went down this journey, to your point, is we didn't jump right there's no silver bullet, to your point. These technologies are interesting in their own right, but how do you deploy them? But the way you guys went about building it in the piece parts so that it was creating efficiency and workflow, but that was foundationally needed to do the automation anyway, right? So this is the real schema of what we're doing, and what you'll see next is, as we talk, is this is Doc IQ. This is this was a demo that was done. So Spencer, talk to them about the what we learned as we started to deploy pieces to automate the manual process while then working towards automation.
Yep. So a couple things here to keep in mind. One is we think about both a human in the loop workflow where we have kind of an AI assistant that is working with our clinicians and operators to identify the right information, whether it's out of a UB04 claim form, which is what you're seeing here, layering on the right kind of code set mapping so that people don't have to swivel chair and look that up in a separate system, using OCR to identify those accurately, or then pulling it out of a medical record, and you're seeing a sample de-identified medical record here, where we are automatically pulling the right kind of key information out into a summary view that has citations back to the right page of the medical record, as well as giving a chat interface a la ChatGPT to ask natural language questions out of the medical record. This is going a little bit faster, but Ya's going to talk a minute about appeal generation. But before we get that, I just want to make a couple of quick points. So there's augmenting people and helping them move faster. Then there's also how do we actually take things off of people's plate and have a kind of a full automation process and still have the right feedback loop, so that we can keep making those models better and better. And what you're seeing here is not just, hey, we send one call to GPT-4 or something, and then say, write an appeal letter, right? These are hundreds of calls in complicated machine learning pipelines, as Ya said, of mix between off-the-shelf, fine-tuned internally, self-hosted, other services that do all this. But I'll let Ya talk about the appeal letter generation specifically.
So what you are seeing here is our appeal generation workflow. So we already have MR loaded. Then the system will ask a question, simple question like what's the denial category? And if DRG downgrade, what's the disputed code? And also ask you to upload the denial letter. Once it has all the material it needs, then you just automatically create a draft letter for you. So in a window, the user can review and edit the appeal letter. Not only that, we also give the user opportunity to review, the guideline we refer to, and also the information we pull out from hundreds of pages of medical records, and also the evidence and arguments, all those things. We added this layer of transparency to give user confidence so they can understand, they can see how AI gather information and develop the arguments for the appeal letter. So this is the whole thing, as like Spencer said, behind the scene, a lot going on. We could be asked hundreds of questions, doing all the machine learning stuff. However, on the surface, it's just the user sits there, wait for 1 or 2 minutes, and see the letter. So it's a huge productivity boost. I think usually it takes our lawyers, nurses like hours to review the medical records. I think we are handling complex claims. Those are not simple cases you can solve with RPO tools. You can use templates to say, okay, because I'm missing this document, so you can use this template. No, we are dealing with a very complex case. Every case is different. You need to look into medical history, look at the whole treatment process, and all the notes, all those things together. It requires human level intelligence to be able to handle it well. So we are very proud about what we are doing here.
Yeah, it's been fascinating. I mean, it's been basically a year from you guys joining Aspirion, having a platform that was, I'll call it more generic and open to multiple industries, to you guys being able to look at the revenue cycle space, specifically the services we're providing, to be able to ingest a raw medical record and effectively ask it, pre-loaded prompts where it's querying it for, give me a summary of the length of stay, show me the consults from other physician types, give me the abnormal test results. So all the questions that our coders, clinicians, even our lawyers are looking at, and they're asking that of a up to 2,000-page medical record every time. Well, control find in Acrobat is not a very fast way to do that. When the machine can go ahead and basically pre-process that whole 2,000-page medical record document, index it, ask those questions, and down the spine you can see immediately, like, here's where sepsis was identified. And here's to what Ya said, then we built in to Milliman's care guidelines. So we've got care guidelines, and so it says this case is these guidelines apply to this case. This is the logic you need to confirm was actually done in the course of treatment. Can you pull out evidence of that, and can you put that all in an argument and an appeal letter? And so it was fascinating for me, even watching from a product standpoint, when you guys first released it and had a blinded test of some of our best lawyers that write appeal letters, looked at the 20 cases that were done by DocIQ, the platform you saw, and then against the 20 letters that were successful overturns that they had written in the past. And they scored the machine better on every category across the board. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's awesome, right? So, I mean, it's been an amazing kind of journey to watch all the core components. As they said, this is not just, let's take ChatGPT and ask it to write an appeal letter. It doesn't work like that. So all the components of the RAG model, as you mentioned, the retrieval augmented generation, which is only looking at that medical record itself as the evidence to prove what it needs, versus it's not using and coalescing and compiling everybody's information together and learning off of it. None of that's happening. But the machine can ask those same questions that a human asks anyway in the course of their work and already have it ready for them to review and then build that argument. It's awesome. So we've got 5 minutes left as we wrap kind of up, and if there's any questions, we'd love to take them. It's been a cool journey. I think everybody, kind of collectively needs to ask themselves, these questions. I know providers have got a lot going on. We're not exactly, flush with capital, so do you have the capital to kind of go do it? And do you have the capacity and all the other things with, patient care you're doing? The capability, as we mentioned, it's just not the tech. It's the people, it's the change management, it's the other aspects, it's the product folks that are designing these roadmaps and understanding these problems. And then it's those subject matter experts that are helping us say, man, if you could give me, this in a faster manner, I could do my job faster. We've seen real material evidence of 30% gains in just productivity and reviewing a medical record. So again, it's not just jump to the end, silver bullet, it writes the appeal letter, but rather give them tools along the way so they can do their job faster. In the meantime, as we work towards building to full automation, is kind of where we're aiming. So we appreciate you guys being here. Hopefully this was helpful. We want to tell the story of the journey we've been on and hope to be a resource for the provider organizations.